Mojo Homestead. We're discussing the Simple Solar series, and today we're on number 8. We're going to be discussing grounding the solar equipment. Now, this is the way I do my grounding. I'm not going to be responsible for the way you do your grounding, but this is how I do mine. So there's my disclaimer. Also, subscribe to the channel because we got some really cool stuff going on out here at the Freedom Farm. We're going to discuss grounding solar equipment now. This is how I do it. And the number one thing we're going to discuss is these grounding rods right here. This is the earth. I know that looks funny spelled, but anyway, this is the earth. Okay, that's an 8-foot grounding rod driven all the way down till it's about 2 inches sticking up out of the ground. You can have 2 of them. With an ideal situation is 4 feet, but not much more than 4 feet. Between 4 and 6 feet is ideal. So what I start with is you just start at the beginning of the chain, and obviously you're going to start with the sun. You can't ground the sun. We don't want to ground the sun. So the next thing in the chain is your solar panels, your PV panels. You can use metal to frame the mounting system for your solar panels. And sometimes I use wood. I'll use pressure treated lumber, depending on where I'm putting it and how I'm installing it. But if you use metal and you screw the frames to the metal, you can ground the frame itself. If you're using a wood frame, you have to ground them together. If you say you have 4, they all have to be touching. I always use a number 4 grounding cable. And I use it between here and here. And everything you see in green, I tie to the grounding system with a number 4 grounding cable. And that's my preference. So you will connect your solar panels together. Then that comes off and goes straight to your grounding. Always ground things individual. I learned that if you ground the first piece and the last piece, everything in between is vulnerable. It creates a loop inside of there, and you will barbecue your equipment. I've done it. I know from experience. And this is how I learned to not fry the equipment. So you ground straight to your grounding bus bar. However you choose to do that piece going from this rod to this rod. You can use a 1/4 inch aluminum, or you can use the number 4 grounding cable, or you can use a copper bus bar, whatever you choose. But a bus bar is nice because you can just screw the cable right into the bus bar. Otherwise, you have to use a connector that connects a cable to a cable. Good luck finding that. So anyway, you go from the combiner box and you're going to ground that down. So you go from your combiner box down to your bus bar. And next in line will be your charge controller. If there's no obvious grounding spot on your piece of equipment, screw it into the body. Screw it into the body of the piece of equipment. I'll show you. I'll give you an example. Like this is the charge controller I'm about to put in. There's nowhere to ground this thing. It doesn't have an obvious ground in it. But that's a metal box. You can drive a screw right in that box, right inside of there, anywhere where it's not going to touch something else. And you can either drill a little hole right there. Now, when you start altering your equipment, you're definitely going to lose your warranty on that. But if you don't ground this box somehow, you could just tap a little hole in the side right there and run the screw right there. Somehow you got to ground this box. So it's kind of a fantasy to believe that you can't open up your equipment, because a lot of things come with fuses, and it says if you open up your equipment, it voids your warranty. I've always called bullshit on that, because you got to be able to get into this equipment. If it's not installed correctly, you're gonna fry it anyway. So next will be your battery bank. Now people say, well, the battery's got ground on it. Well, they're not grounded to the system. So I always run one ground Always want one ground off the last post of the ground and tie it into that right there. And then next will be your power inverter. And on your power inverter, there's a ground spot for that. There's usually always a ground spot for your power inverter. So bring your power inverter down to your bus bar. And then last is your AC power. If you're going with AC power and you're going to run a panel box, you know, with breakers, and you run it inside your AC power, that grounds also to this same system. So that pretty much wraps it up with grounding. If you have any comments or you have any questions, just hit me up on the video, on the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer it. But this grounding is pretty simple to do. And again, I can't say it enough. If you don't ground a piece of equipment, you're going to barbecue it. Now I want to open this little box right here. This thing, they say you're supposed to put one of these on every one of these pieces of equipment. Now, these are $100, okay? This is a lightning arrestor. Okay, so you got this lightning arrestor. This ties into your system. You got a red, a black, and a green. They say you're supposed to put one of these on every one of these units. Good luck with that. I mean, if you have the money, go for it. But they're $100 a piece. What I would say is get closest to your power chain where the lightning comes in. I would put it in this position because it's the closest to where lightning comes in. That's where lightning gets you every time. Or the experience I've had is that lightning comes into the solar panel drive lines first.